we are going to focus on Strathmore Community Bank, Premier Division, and head over to Keilor because Andrew Lambropoulos, one of the assistant coaches for the reserves, has taken some time out of his afternoon to join us on the line. Andrew, thanks for speaking to us on EDFL Preview.
No worries, thanks for having me.
So, Andrew, a couple of weeks ago, a very significant achievement for you and your two brothers in your family, David and John, raising 1,000 total games between the three of you. You've had some great highlights, including EDFL premierships and obviously some big milestone games along the way. What did it actually mean to the three of you brothers to bring up 4 figures of games within your family?
Well, it's a pretty big achievement. I mean, there's a lot of things, obviously, that go through your life that can influence your lives in a positive way. But this has been a real positive influence. This club and the 1,000 games between the three of us has been a real positive influence on our lives. It's given us a second family, really. So to give something back to the club like we have and to play at a place that we love so much with a lot of people that we love is pretty big for us.
Andrew, Adem, Saricaoglu here, mate. Congratulations on the milestone. There's been a lot of highlights in this 1,000-game run. There's been premierships. There's been games where all three of you have lined up in the same team. Talk us through some of the highlights that have taken place in that time.
Well, a couple of the highlights would be probably the first time all three of us played together. That would have been the first time I can remember really was my 300th game at Aberfeldy. All three of us lined up in the centre line, Dave in the wing, myself in the centre, and John on the other wing. We didn't win the game, but it was just great to start the game and have my 300th with my two brothers. It was actually a really big moment for me.
Ram, Adem Papal here, mate. How are you?
Good, Pat, yourself?
Not bad, mate. I've got a few quick-fire questions here, and I want you to answer them pretty quickly for us, mate.
Yep.
Who's the best looking out of the three brothers?
Well, look, I'd love to say me, but unfortunately I'd be fabricating the truth. It would have to be John. He's always been the good-looking one. He's slightly different looking to Dave and myself. The best player.
Who's the best player? Now, I played against you, Ram. I know you go all right. Who's the best player?
I think for natural ability, probably John. He's just a natural freak, really. Probably didn't have the work rate that myself or Dave had. But for natural ability, he was Stevie J like, to be honest.
And if you're going up against one of your brothers, which one wouldn't you want to play on?
Well, that's a tough one. John could probably turn me inside out and probably do some smart things and kick some pretty good goals, but I'd probably get some ball on the way out from him. But Dave would be pretty physical, and he'd let you know who he's about. So, well, it's a tough one. I'd probably say John, simply because I'd get some easy ball off him.
Andrew, before your senior days, there's a little bit of an age gap between the three of you. So who was the best in the backyard, and what was the backyard like with some of the footy matches that would take place there?
Well, I was the best in the backyard by a streak, simply because of my age, and I used to torment them, to be honest. I think that's where John probably learned his one-on-one skills. He used to come up against me a fair bit, and Dave would kick the ball up, the old man would kick the ball up, and John would body up against me, and if he beat me, he'd know about it. I'd probably give him a cheap one. But, I was probably a little easier on Dave, but he was pretty tenacious. But John was always smart. He figured out a way to beat the bigger blokes and to beat the bigger body. So, yeah, he was pretty good.
Now, the Keilor reserves at the moment in action, and the Keilor seniors have really been exciting, still unbeaten in this Premier Division season and heading into a real litmus test against Aberfeldy today. What's the feeling been like around the club during this winning streak? Because after a couple of years out of the finals, so many people are familiar with them being in Premier Division, and what's it been like after a couple of down years for the club to jump back into that top 4 race?
Yeah, look, it's still very early, so I can't really predict where we're going to finish. Because to be honest, until you play every side, you don't know where you're going to finish. But at the moment, the feeling's great. It's a really young, vibrant group. I think we've got a good mix of youth and experience, actually, and we've been a little flat for the last few years. It's been a lot unlike us. We're a proud club and with some proud history, especially in the last 20 or 30 years. So it's been tough over the last few years, but I think Mick's been fantastic. He was only meant to be here for 2 or 3 years, but he's fallen in love with the place, and he doesn't like leaving a place better or worse than when he came. And I think he's been a massive influence in this. He's sort of driven some positivity around the club, and he's still got that aura about him that attracts good players, even though we probably can't splash the cash that other sides are throwing about. And I think there's just a genuinely good feeling that the team is united, the club's united, and it just feels a little bit sharper this year than the last few years, to be honest.
Just finally, Andrew, it's good that we've got you today, mate, because our next guest on the radio show today is a bloke you know quite well, your Keilor Green Gully teammate, Jarrod Catania. Is there anything that we should be asking the great man?
Yeah, there's a couple of things you can ask him. Ask him whether or not he's had 40 or 80 beers this week. And secondly, how's his beard going? I think he had probably one of the worst beards you'll ever see in your life. There's that, and also the fact that has he been working on his English? Ask him about that, because he's not the greatest linguisticist of all time.
And Ram, he'd have a few mirrors in his house, wouldn't he? He wouldn't mind looking at himself.
No, he's a fair fan of himself. He's a fair fan. He thinks he's the fastest bowler in Australia. He probably bowls at about 105 at best, but he thinks he's the greatest bowler of all time. No, but Judge is a great bloke, a very good friend of mine, and we played a lot of footy together at Keilor and a little bit at Sydenham too. And he's a good man. He's done a lot for that.
He almost come back to Keilor this year, Ram.
He nearly did. I think I'd hate to say it, but probably the fact that I didn't take the seconds role probably affected him. Him and Rogowski were going to come down. But he did a pre-season, and he did love it. And he loved the way Mick spoke, and he saw things that you don't see in the lower divisions. But in saying that, he loves Sydenham, and he loves the boys there, and he's done a lot for that place. So good luck to him. I really do. I really do think he's done a great job for the league and for that club.
And Andrew, just one more serious one before we let you go. Is there a coach, a family figure, anyone who you think's been particularly important to you and your two brothers' footy careers that you'd like to just acknowledge after this recent milestone was raised?
Yeah, well, look, I know everyone sort of mentions trainers, but there's a lot of guys like the Paceys and the Sorrigans at Keilor Footy Club who've been our trainers for years, and Wheatley and guys like that have just been fantastic in keeping us going, really. I mean, we all play with bumps and bruises, but they've been fantastic, and they've been like mentors in their own way. But at the same time, coaches like Mickey McGuan probably got the best out of me for one last year when I thought my career was done, and he got a lot of us to a level I never thought we possibly could get to. So he was a huge influence, and he still is now. He's still got that aura about him, and you know what? I see him as a mate, but at the same time, I see him as a very influential man in my career, and John's as well. Who else? Brendan Hickman was fantastic as a coach. He gave us freedom in the early 2000s. He gave us freedom and let us experiment with our own game and feel free to explore what we could produce. And he was great in getting a couple of flags with us. So yeah, I really enjoyed guys like that. And when I see him, he's still a good man. But yeah, look, a lot of players. Stephen Long, for example, he's still around the club. Louis Callahan, Buddha White, all these guys still around the place, and yeah, just really good figures to be mates with. And I think they'll be lifelong friends.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your time this morning, Andrew. All the best to Keilor this afternoon as you take on Aberfeldy, both in the reserves and the seniors. And once again, well done to you, David and John, on the milestone. Thanks for joining us on EDFL Preview.
No problem. Thanks for having it.
Our next guest is about to watch his team take on Craigieburn in a crunch contest. Hillside, though, without Jarrod Catania today, unfortunately due to injury, but he has been good enough to join us on the line. Jarrod, welcome to EDFL Preview.
No worries. Thanks very much.
Now, before we get into talking about your team, let's start with yourself. Unfortunately, out with an injury. Bring us up to speed with what's got you out of the team at the moment and how far away a return might be.
Just a bit of a sprained pelvis muscle at the moment. So, and then stepped on a couple of nails at work the other days, which has put me behind a little bit, but probably about 3 or 4 weeks, I think.
Now, as far as the frustration for you watching your team go out and play without you, it must be nice to know at least that in your absence you've picked up a couple of wins and got a foothold in the season. Has it come as a surprise, though, that Hillside is ahead of the win-loss count to some of the boys in the group, or is this entirely where you guys expect it to be?
Sort of a little bit of both. We sort of expected to come as an underdog, obviously, but then win a few games and that. But now we're really, after winning 2 games against quality opposition, we probably wanted to, had to reassess after we had them wins. But more so at the start of the year, it sort of surprised us, especially against beating Taylor's Lakes and West Meadows, who are really good sides. But we're just sort of spreading it one game at a time at the moment, and hopefully we can get a fair few more wins under the belt.
Jarrod, Adem Saricaoglu here, mate. Good luck today for the Sharks. But last week's game was an interesting one because a lot of people would have had Hillside as the favourite against Glenroy, who hadn't won a game just yet. What was your assessment of what happened on that day? Was it a bit of a slip-up on your behalf, or is Glenroy really better than what the form line had shown so far this year?
Well, we, for the boys' credit, they started really, really well again, which is what we want to pride ourselves on this year, is starting well, but we obviously want to follow through with that. Glenroy, obviously, we got a lot of respect for them because, their list is pretty much the same as last year, and coming off a grand final appearance, we knew that it wasn't going to be easy, and we knew that them coming in after losing three or 4 games, that it was going to be a hard contest. I think at the end of the day, they were just a lot taller than us, and I think we got a little bit ahead of ourselves after having 2 good wins. Glenroy played really well and deserved the win, but we're a little bit disappointed, and hopefully we can bounce back against Craigieburn today.
Jarrod, Adem Papal here. How are you?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Very well, mate. We had a good friend of yours on the radio before, Andrew, Mr. Rambo. I don't know whether you heard the interview. He had some pretty good things to say about yourself, which is unusual.
Oh yeah. I might have to slip him a 50 there.
Mate, tell us about some of the kids. I know you got some of the best kids in the EDFL up there at Hillside. Tell us about some of the kids that have made their way into the senior team this year and really shone through.
Yeah, it's actually pretty pleasing to play and watch a few of these kids because they're so far ahead of where we probably thought they would be at the moment. Obviously, we've got a couple of kids at the Jets. Probably the standout out of that lot is Jackson Volpardo, who's been the best few weeks at the Jets and that, but he's actually back in playing for us today, so hopefully he can keep his form up and that. But they've all been pretty consistent. There's a couple of good ones, Brandon Coletta and Brody Pasala, but also there's quite a few coming through the 18 side at the moment, which we just can't fit into the side. Things really looking good up at the club. There's plenty of kids to come through in the next few years, which is only going to make our club a lot stronger. But these kids, they're very positive football, and it's like they've played 10 years of senior footy so far already.
Jarrod, certainly the junior program at Hillside's always been a popular one and a good one, but how much of an influence do you think that senior premiership last year had on showing to the juniors at the club that this is what you can build towards? And you may not play AFL, you may not make the TAC Cup, but if you perform your best, you can still play in a big moment, a premiership moment at Windy Hill. Do you feel as though the influence of that victory and that day has flowed down through the junior ranks as a bit of a motivating force?
Yeah, well, I think so. The club's pretty close in itself. Like, obviously, the seniors get behind the juniors a lot, and a lot of the juniors, a few senior coaches that senior players, that actually coach juniors. So obviously, they're always following their coaches, and there's a pretty good relationship between the two groups and that. And last year was just probably, it wasn't just last year. It's been the last 2 years. The club's sort of made sure that it wants to go in the right direction and look after the kids for the future and that. And our sort of aim last year for the senior blokes was to make sure that we didn't, we made sure that we got the right result and put a positive vibe through the club, which has carried on into this year. And hopefully that's set the tone for years to come. And I think it's going to be a pretty bright future for the club.
And just tell us a bit about the pressure of playing in Division 1, because there are no easy games in this league. It seems as though you're either going for a spot in the top 4 or you're looking over your shoulder at relegation, and there's very little dead space in the middle of the ladder and very little room for error. So what's that actually done to the group of the senior boys as far as keeping the pressure on week to week, and perhaps knowing that other than your bye week, there's really no let-up to some of the challenges in this league?
Yeah, well, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, me and co-captain Blaze Ferraro. We sort of said to the boys that we can't really worry about, what happened the week before or what's going to happen next week. We sort of just have to address the situation as it comes, and that's sort of a reflect on each sort of stoppage, and that we just address it as it comes, and we don't if we lose, well, yeah, we have to work on the negatives, but if we win, we just got to keep moving forward, and we just sort of address it slowly. We don't want to sort of look too far down the track and that, but I think Division 2 is a very, very good standard of footy, and we're not sort of scared of any of the opposition we come across, because with our best that we can really match it with the top sides. But for our club, we just think it's a lot better for us, and no disrespect to the C grade, but we want it to be up in B grade straight away, so that's what our main focus has been on. And yeah, I mean, there were some good players for the C grade competition and good teams, but yeah, it's really good playing up in B grade because it's so close, and we know that we're in for a real tough game week in, week out, regardless of who we're playing.
Jarrod, thank you so much for joining us. Stay out of the wars, I suppose. All the best rehabbing that injury as well. We hope to see you back on the team sheet soon, and all the best to Hillside today as you take on Craigieburn.
No worries. Thanks very much, guys.
Now we are going to talk a little bit of TAC Cup, and joining us on the line is the coach of the Calder Cannons, Andrew Jago. Andrew, thanks for joining us on EDFL Preview.
Thank you so much for having me.
Andrew, it's a big weekend for a number of EDFL boys as they pull on the Big V and play for Vic Metro. The Calder Cannons have the weekend off, and your team hits the break, 6 wins and 1 loss, a very impressive start to the season. But I'm guessing it's no less than you would have expected with some of the talent coming through the team this year.
Look, we've been very fortunate. 2 year groups have sort of collided with a fair degree of talent in both of them. Last year's bottom ages that obviously become this year's top ages got exposed a lot to TAC Cup football last year, and then our under-16s that have come in as our bottom ages last year, come in as our bottom ages this year, I beg your pardon, have also brought quite a talented group with them. So, yeah, it's just a matter of harnessing all that, getting it pulling in the one direction, and hopefully getting the success we're chasing.
Let's start with the Vic Metro match versus Vic Country. It's at Trevor Barker Oval tomorrow, and there are a number of EDFL boys who've managed to gain selection. Tuke Miller from Maribyrnong Park and Peter Wright from Moonee Valley, two that get spoken about quite a bit, and they are top ages this year who are eligible for the draft, but also Paul Ahern from Keilor is there, Nick O'Kearney from Keilor as well. He's in the squad. What can you tell us about some of these players? For those EDFL fans who don't go and watch the juniors on Sunday or are busy with club commitments and can't get to the TAC Cup, tell us a bit about these Vic Metro boys and what some of their talents are and what their prospects are for recruitment at the end of the season.
Well, Tuke Miller's been fortunate enough to be named Vic Metro captain, so that sort of gives you an idea of the esteem that Tuke's held on. Inside midfielder who has a great balance between inside and outside, finds his own football and uses it exceptionally well. Peter Wright, he's sort of a ruckman forward, coming in at about 204 centimetres and 102 kilos. Very, very good mark of the ball in the air, very, very mobile as a ruckman around the ground. Then Paul Ahern, one of the most natural movers on a football field I've had the privilege of coaching. Reminds me a little bit of Michael Holding for those that are cricket fans. He's a little bit like poetry in motion. Gets the ball, runs, carries, breaks lines, and has exquisite balance and skill to finish with. And Nick O'Kearney's one of the very, very talented bottom ages that's come into the Cannons program this year to TAC. And Nick hasn't missed a game for us yet unless he's had school commitments. And he's come straight into our midfield as a bottom ager, and he's probably averaging high 20s, low 30s in his possession rate, and probably at about 75% efficiency. So Nick's had a real impact early.
the other boys named Ben Allen of Pascoe, Victor Carboni from Aberfeldy, Damien Kavka, who is a Keilor junior. He's listed as Pegs, but he's a Keilor junior. Tristan Davies, Aberfeldy. So plenty of EDFL players making their way up to this next level. Adam, you've got a question.
Yeah, Andrew, Adam Saricaoglu here, mate. You did mention Nico Kearney. I was going to ask you about some of the bottom age talent as well that's coming through at the moment. Obviously, the EDFL is a big breeding ground for the Calder Cannons. Who are some of those other boys that have shown some good signs so far as bottom ages that might not be draft eligible just yet?
Some of the bottom ages have come through and sort of, not cemented because we tend to roll players through and give everyone a chance in the bottom age Cannons. So Bruno Laguta's come through, Max Dillman's come through. We've then had Kane Lucas, Kane Murphy come through. So we've had quite a few of our bottom ages come in. Early in the season, we tend to use our top ages a little bit more and expose them because it's their draftable year. And then find the balance towards sort of the middle and the end of the year. Obviously, with so many in Mid Metro at the moment and private school football also kicking in, we get to roll through and have a look at pretty well every player on our list, which provides us, good opportunity to find the right balances going forward.
Andrew, Adam Papal here. From a EDFL perspective, really interested in the policy of players returning to the EDFL, and particularly senior football. What is the Cannons policy around that?
Look, we'll do everything we can. We're very, very reliant, obviously, on the local club, not just in the EDFL, but as you say, it's been an exceptional breeding ground for us. The relationship we have with the clubs is vital. We have the players come and train with us every Tuesday night, try and announce the squad that's likely to play on the weekend as early as possible on the Wednesday, so the players can get back and inform their local coaches as to their availability. And then lucky enough to have very, very good and strong relationships with most of the local coaches and get phone calls regularly from them, working out what we've got in mind for their players, where we're likely to play them, and what they would like, what they can do to help us educate the players and fast-track their position into a TAC side. So very reliant and very, very fortunate to have a good working relationship with the local coaches in all of our feeder leagues.
Andrew, in the media, mainstream discussion the last 2 weeks has been around the club's split on wanting to raise the draft age to 19. You're at the coalface, and you also get the chance to bring back 19-year-olds as overage players if there really is a feeling that one more year in the TAC Cup will be the thing that gets them drafted. Do you think there's merit to raising the draft age, or do you think it's fine as it is, or do you have any perhaps other thoughts on the best way to prepare players for the AFL?
Look, I mean, to be completely honest and selfish, it's time that is probably the biggest thing that's lacking from our perspective in the TAC, just the amount of time we can spend with the players. I mean, in their 18th year, obviously BCE becomes exceptionally important to them. We are lucky enough this year at the Cannons to have 5 19-year-olds listed. And in my time at the Cannons, that's probably 2 more than we've ever had previously. We usually have 3. I think the balance is about right. I think there is some logical arguments for a 19-year-old draft age. I also think there's very, very logical arguments for an 18-year-old draft age. So I think, further discussion and open discussion merits on both, and somewhere in there we'll find a balance, which I know sounds like a political statement, but I think there is genuinely merit to both age groups.
Andrew, we know Peter Wright's probably going to go in the top 10. He may even go number 1. Give us the 2 players that, other than Peter Wright, that we will see in the top 20 from the Calder Cannons in the national draft this year.
Look, Tuke Miller will certainly come under consideration. Matt Goodyear will certainly come under consideration. But we've been lucky enough. Paul Ahern's probably first forcing his way up and in there. Ben Allen probably wasn't even spoken about pre-season an awful lot as being draftable. Obviously, with the National Carnival on now, up against the best under-18s in the country, and with exposure to all the recruiters, the order can change, but, Pete's got a lot of attributes that make him very desirable.
Do you think the fact that he is a ruckman will go against him, given that, I guess ruckmen aren't really going in the top 10 in recent years?
But we've played Peter forward pretty well in every game so far this year, trying to show that he's got the ability to play as a genuine key forward as well. The fact now that we'll start to push him up through the ruck and try and show that he can do both. And, we've even thought about playing him as a key back just to try and demonstrate that whatever any club's looking for, Pete's got some attributes that would be well worth considering.
And Andrew, just as last question for you, Queen's Birthday weekend, of course, is Junior Interleague. There's always so much politics in junior footy, and as we know, there's a lot of parents who want the best for their sons and want to push them up towards that TAC Cup. You said earlier in this interview that you had a bit of a political answer, but if I may tap into your political side of things here, do you have any advice just for juniors heading into Junior Interleague, for parents whose kids get selected, and perhaps just, what the latest school of thought is out of the Calder Cannons as to how players get recruited and maybe dispel any of the myths that go around about how the TAC Cup lists get put together?
We're exceptionally fortunate. I have a very, very large team of recruiters that work through Chris Sepwa, and we pretty well have a recruiter at most junior games. Chris's network is incredible, and the amount of information he gathers on players in our region is absolutely phenomenal. As far as tips, look, fundamentals are vital. We want to see a kid that has the ability to win the ball below his knees very cleanly, a kid who has running ability, has kicking ability, and most importantly has the ability to make decisions under pressure. Don't really care what level they're playing at the moment in terms of Div 1, Div 2, Div 3. We watch all divisions. We've recruited players out of everywhere, but it's a player who has determination and dedication to just want to keep getting better, to keep improving.
Andrew, I don't think that can be said enough sometimes in EDFL circles, so great to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Congratulations on the start to the season with the TAC Cup and the Vic Metro reps that have been selected. All the best for the rest of the season, and thank you for being generous with your time this morning.
Oh, thank you so much. You've always been a great supporter of the Cannons. We very, very much appreciate it, and anytime, anywhere. Thank you.
We've got Lance Whitnall, the victorious Glenroy coach, who has joined us here in the tent. Lance, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations, another win for your team, 2 in a row. When we spoke to you last week, it sounded like your side had turned the corner. As far as the performance this afternoon, are you happy, and how did you assess the performance?
Yeah, the boys, once again, really had to work hard for it today. And I said to the boys just then in the rooms that over the last month, they've really taken the bull by the horns and really worked hard on the track, and it's starting to show in our games. They're not pretty, but we're working through them. So it was a good win again today.
You spent the first 3 quarters of the match behind and didn't hit the front until the mid-stages of the final term. We actually thought here in the box that playing catch-up footy all day might have been a bit of a factor, and it might have actually worn at the team mentally. What does it say about your group that they never got their heads down, even though they were behind for most of the day? Yeah,
as you said there, we were behind for 3 quarters, and we knew in that third quarter if we work hard and didn't give them the scoring opportunities that we'd be able to run out the game, because we've done a lot of fitness over the last month. So the boys' credit in that third quarter, they really tied the game up, slowed it up, got them chasing us. So even though they were in front on the scoreboard, they were doing a lot of chasing, and that, as we know, that tires you out when you're chasing the ball.
Against Hillside, you told us that the attitude was a big improvement on the first couple of weeks. You really implored for a big effort after the final, after three-quarter time as well today. Mentally, the boys look like they're really starting to gel together and play some really good footy after what admittedly has been a slow start.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, our attitude for the first couple of games, and the boys won't mind me saying it, is that they thought they'd only have to be out there and turn up and get results like we did last year. And we didn't get the results early, and now the boys' attitude, they're really working hard on the track, working hard out in the games, working for each other, and it's starting to turn the corner. So hopefully we can continue with this momentum.
Lance, congratulations on the win, mate. I thought that it was really interesting to see structurally how you guys approached the match. Obviously, especially in the latter part of quarters, really happy to sort of slow the tempo down, kick short. We saw some time during the third quarter there when you were kicking into the breeze. It was almost comical how much space you were given inside the defensive 50 to just to kill time.
Yeah, it's something we've spoken about for a number of weeks now, is not turning the ball over late in quarters, not giving them scoring opportunities late in quarters, because it gives you a lift if you're scoring goals late in the quarters. On the other hand, if you're stopping the goals, you come in the quarter times or the half times of the breaks of the quarter and you're up and about. So we have spoken about it a fair bit over the last couple of weeks about not losing the last 5 minutes of the quarters.
Is that something that's a particular focus at home with the size, or especially the width of the ground, and using the size of the ground to your advantage?
Oh, for sure. I mean, as I said earlier, if you're making the opposition chase you, it doesn't matter if they're in front on the scoreboard. If they're chasing you to pick you up, they're working harder than you. So if we're getting them chasing us, and that's what we're about, getting them working hard, and you can see they run out of legs in the end because they spent a lot of time in the third quarter chasing us because we had the ball in possession. So
it's certainly nice to have this big fella back today, sporting the moustache, kicked some nice goals today, the big Trav Dulic. Yeah,
big Trav Dulic was good today. He missed last week through suspension, so he knew he had to come out and over the side, but he done that perfectly today, led by example, and the rest of the boys certainly followed his lead, and he was really good today for us.
Who else did you like as well?
Young Josh Tremberth I really like today. He's really stepped it up every week. It's his third game coming out of under-18s. He's only bottom age under-18, so third senior game. Every game he's played, he's just stepped it up another level. And to see him what he did today, he's just got such a mature head on his shoulders for a kid that's bottom age under-18s. He uses his voice out there. You get feedback that he uses his voice. He's as good as anybody in terms of work rate and stuff like that. So, yeah, I thought he was fantastic out there today.
Where's Heath Woodhouse at? How far away is he from a return?
We're not sure with Heath at the moment. He has got a major back problem. He has got a bulging disc in his back. So with him, it's all about his health at the minute. We'll look at him later. He will be back later in the season, but at the moment, we're not even rushing him. It's more about him getting his health right. First of all, getting him back into working, which he starts back at work this week. So just little things like that. So we'll be looking for him late in the season.
Lance, just quickly, Aaron Kite, 6 goals today. He was I thought he had a mixed game at times with some of his set shots. He kicked a few out of bounds on the full. How did you see his game?
Yeah, Kitey can do that for you, can't he? He can kick him straight through the middle from anywhere, or he can spray him out in the full. Kitey's been working hard on his goal kicking. What I like about Kitey at the moment is really putting the team first. His first few games, he wasn't quite doing that, and he wasn't getting the results because he wasn't putting the team first. The last couple of weeks, he's got his goals purely by putting the team first, working other forwards into the play. And if we're getting more than one dangerous forward, we're really good. And Kitey's certainly providing that at the moment. He's giving other options, using his voice out there, and the boys are certainly lifting from him. So to see Kitey put the team first is fantastic for me.
Taking a leaf out of your book in the twos from beforehand as a goal-kicking machine?
I wouldn't say goal-kicking machine. It was good to be out there, just enjoying getting back out there. Sort of tried to retire, but the body wants to retire, but the mind doesn't. But it's just good fun to get out there and have a kick. Playing with a few older blokes in the twos, bit of fun.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Lance. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the win. 2 more consecutive games at home, so chance to really build a bit more momentum, and congratulations on today's result.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the call.
Thank you very much to Lance Whitnall. We're going to stay with Glenroy because our Sporting Globe player of the match, I think he's already picked up a prize off Channel 31, and he's going to cash in again right here. Travis Dulic joins us in the tent. Trav, congratulations at Sporting Globe Player of the Game. Here's a $40 voucher to spend at 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds, and if I can just get you to hold up that card for a photo, that would be much appreciated. So our Sporting Globe Player of the Day winner, Travis Dulic. We didn't even bother with the 3, 2 and 1, mate. It was pretty clear. Cheers. All right, Adem and Dave, fire away.
Talking at both ends, mate. But firstly, a really important win for the team today. First home win this year.
Yeah, definitely. We had a very slow start to the season, so we lost our first 3 games, and we had to identify a few areas where we were lacking, and one of them was fitness and structure. So we've last 3 to 4 weeks, we've been training pretty hard Tuesday nights, just choosing to get our first win at home. It's been really good.
And Trav, also, we spoke to Lance just quickly about controlling the ball in defence. I thought you especially took a lot of ownership of that. And how much does, being at that end of the ground help you influence the rest of the play further up the field?
Yeah, luckily I'm myself with a few of the other boys are identified as one of the key ball users. So, with today's game with a bit of a breeze, it's a game of 2 halves. So when we're going against the wind, we just want to really control it, because if it just blaze away, kick it in the wind, we're only going to get 30 metres up the ground, and then it's going to go straight back overhead. So really controlling it, sucking up the time, and then we know the next quarter we're going to be able to attack.
One thing we noticed kicking to this golf course end, we've been here in previous years, and there's a sweet spot about 55, 60 metres out, and you seem to be reliable to kick a goal or 2 from there every game. Is it something that training on this ground and knowing it's almost like it's a repeat action, and once you hit that certain spot, you know, this is my range and I kick it from here, or are we just reading too much into it? Can you do that on other grounds as well?
There definitely is a little bit of an advantage here at home. Thursday nights we have goal kicking down that end, so as we're walking down we'll have a few pot shots from quite far out. So yeah, played all my footy here, so I know pretty much where to aim it with a little bit of a breeze.
Now, you served a week's suspension. I don't think there was any chance that Glenroy was going to challenge that 1 week. I guess as the captain of the team, how hard did that hit you? And how important was it today that you came back and put in a good performance to show that that week off wasn't going to throw you off what it is that you do?
Yeah, it's very important. There's a little bit of brain fade last week, so I had to come back this week, make sure I did all the right things, head down, work hard, and luckily today we paid off.
Trav, speaking of brain phase, what's going on the top lip, mate? I must admit I do admire it, but could you care to explain what's going on there at the moment?
I started off as a bet with a couple of the other boys, and within the first week they left me for dead, so I'm taking it all away and trying to ride as much as I can, so it's got a bit of a cult figure down here, cult following, so...
What about some of your teammates today? We heard Lance speak about Trembath, but we thought there was some real courageous work. Hope going back to the flight a couple of times, we noticed him. Your defence held up pretty well at times today. Anyone that you out there on the field thought had a particularly good game that we may not have picked up from the sidelines?
Yeah, you're spot on with our back six. We pride ourselves in our back six. It's a team within a team. I thought Joey Sayers, our fullback, was really good today. And also Brenton Forker, Mui, head over the ball all day long. And the other one would be Jolie Mansfield. He had a big job today on Tommy German, and we thought we nullified him really well. So those are the things that go unnoticed.
Congratulations once again on the win, Trav. I want to talk to you about this ground in particular. I sort of made mention of the fact that it does feel like it's slightly downhill towards that end. Do you notice that when you're out there?
Definitely.
And I'm talking about the southern end for our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. The golf course end is the scoring end that we find. The wind's normally always blowing down that way, so we always find that that's the attacking end. So you've got to play smart footy going up with the ground, but then definitely attack downfield.
All right, Trav, thanks so much for joining us after the game. Congratulations, Sporting Globe Player of the Day, 690 Mount Alexander Road, Moonee Ponds, $40 voucher, and make the most of that. And congratulations on the win. Hopefully there's a few more good performances and good wins coming in the near future.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
All right, we have our next guest, Oak Park. Ben Chapman, the coach, joins us. Not the circumstances you would have wanted to join us under. Frustrating. We were saying it all through the third quarter, kicking 8 shots at goal, 6 behinds, couple that didn't make the distance, couple rushed. And on your bench, how do you avoid the inevitable feeling that that's your chance to win the game maybe gone?
Yeah, look, we didn't think it was totally our chance to win the game gone at three-quarter time. We thought if we could hang in, obviously we wanted to take the game on, kicking to the non-scoring end in the last quarter. But, in the last 3 games we've played, we've had opportunities to score against opposition sides and apply scoreboard pressure and haven't been able to do that. 3 games have been pretty tight within 2 or 3 goals. Taylor's Lakes was 2 points. We just didn't quite take our chances when we've needed to. That's an area, obviously, we need to work on.
Ben, is it less about results and more about how you go about it at the moment? And if so, what's your assessment on today's performance?
Oh, look, I thought we were really competitive. We controlled the game for a fair portion of it. Again, there were times halfway through the second quarter, for argument's sake, I think we were 4 goals up. We'd had all the play, had all the momentum, and then, we milked a couple of easy goals. It's probably through blokes that dropped off just slightly. Look, we've got a real emphasis on our effort and guys trying to be involved for as long as they can. We know with the young list we're going to make errors. Results are important, though, believe it or not. When you haven't won a game for as long as we have, they do become, ultra important. We find that we're working really hard, but not getting reward for effort on the scoreboard at the end of the day. So, we're hopeful that that'll turn around quickly. As I said, we started the year really slow, but we've progressed the last few weeks. So, hopefully next week.
One thing we media people love to say is that a team has forgotten how to win. Does that cliche have any truth to it at Oak Park?
Again, it's about the processes. As I've said, we've had opportunities in the last 3 games to win the game and haven't been able to take those opportunities. So whether it's forgotten how to win or just not being able to kick goals at crucial times perhaps, and that could be internal pressure from within the playing group knowing that we haven't won for a long time. Forgotten how to win, I'm not sure. I think if you hang in the game for long enough, eventually it'll turn. So.
Ben, realistically today, 23 scoring shots to 21. So you win that stat. 21 scoring shots on any given day. If you can restrict a team to that, you're probably going to get close to winning the game. I thought that you guys, in that second half just dropped off a little bit in terms of the forward targets. We saw that you sort of pushed Bloomfield up the ground a little bit and maybe just lacked a key forward there at times in the second half.
Yeah, true. What we tried to do, we thought they'd flood back and get numbers back behind the ball. So we tried to go a little bit smaller and exploit them. We thought that if we could get the ball into the hands of our runners, particularly close to goal, that would be a chance of scoring. And I think, as Teo said before, we had 8 shots on goal in the third quarter and a couple that didn't make the distance. So I think the setup worked. It was just a matter of us not being able to kick goals when we needed to.
What about defensively or inside your attacking 50? Did you ever think to maybe play a negative role with one of your forwards on their captain, Travis Dulic, who seemed to have a sort of a big influence in the second half?
We actually targeted all the game, if you can believe it. You wouldn't look
he's
at
he's a great player.
Looking at the game,
yeah.
Look, we know he zones off, and we know that he wants the ball in his hands, and we know they go to him. And he's a quality player. The thing that disappointed me, I guess, from our point of view, was going forward. When he was pushing forward, our lack of forward pressure on him, where he could find the ball through centre wing and 60 metres out on his own, he's going to hurt you every time because his foot skills are so good. And I think he kicked 2 or 3 for the game, I think, and was probably the difference between the two sides, him and Kite.
Hillside and Craigieburn at home coming up, and then Queen's birthday weekend, you go to Hadfield. How close do you think you guys might be from finally breaking through for a win?
Oh, look, I'd like to say next week it'll be. Obviously, with every loss that continues to mount, pressure mounts on everybody. That's myself, the playing group, and the club as a whole. Look, I think that, as I said, we've played some really good footy in patches, and we've been ultra competitive. We just need to take that next step, and when we have a side on the ropes like we did in the second quarter, we need to be able to put them away. Put that gap in the game where it's 5 or 6 goals. Hopefully, as I said, all things being equal, that should be next week, we hope.
And if I can talk about some individuals, these are guys who I think had 1 good quarter or 2 good quarters. I want to know how you get 4 good quarters out of them. Hemmons, who started the game on fire. I thought Kennedy had a really strong start to the game. I thought Olsen was really good in the second quarter, and I thought Whitmer had an unbelievable second quarter as well. But how come you can't get 4 quarters at the moment? Is it just because guys give that effort and maybe you just don't have the tank, or the opponents clamp down and they can't break the attention, or is it something else which you think you can tap into? Because if you got 4 quarters like that out of Hemmons today, he probably could have won you the game single-handedly.
Yeah, true. It was Jesse's first game since round 2 against Tully. He's come back from a hamstring. So we always knew that his impact would be minimal, as in the amount of game time and actual time on the ground impact that he could give us. We knew that going in. So, as you say, he started really well. As the game wore on, he probably dropped off a little bit through lack of match practice and things like that. Olsen, again, had been overseas. It was his second game back. So, from that point of view, we thought, again, maybe he's slightly underdone. And it was Whitmar's second game for the year. Wasn't going to play earlier in the year, and then decided a couple of weeks ago that he wanted to come back. So, in regards to those blokes, we probably know at the moment we're not going to get 100 minutes of top quality footy out of them at the moment. If we can continue that, to get game time into them, then obviously in the second half of the year they'll be really important to us.
Well, Ben, as Adam said, you've got 3 massive games coming up. We'll be there on Queen's birthday Saturday, so hopefully we're speaking to you in happier circumstances in 3 games' time. Thank you for joining us and being so generous with your time.
No worries. Thanks very much.